Suze, so good to have you back here at Lavender Cottage.
So nice to be back.
So, you very kindly agreed to talk about your Vision Day experience with us.
Yep.
Thank you
No
for
problem.
that. Now, I'm just wondering, I'm desperate to kind of get to the "and how are things now" question, but to start at the beginning, what made you sign up for a 8-hour immersive coaching experience with me?
So I left a corporate career 2 years ago and I was feeling a little bit lost. So I think I kind of thought it was going to be a magic switch and I would come out of corporate life and I would walk into this consulting kind of freelance role and feel freed and liberated. But after 2 years, it wasn't quite happening the way I wanted it to. So I felt like I just needed a little bit of extra support to help me break down some of the boundaries and some of the negative chatter that I'd been creating for myself.
So much stuff, isn't there, with all of that stuff, and I think I totally empathise with that because I did the same, right? And we leave and we think, oh, if we just walk away from the stuff, all the stuff stays there and we're like magically okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that. I really get that. So talk to me a little bit about the run up to the process, because I know I gave you a bunch of homework. What was going through your mind?
I think initially there was a little bit of overwhelm because as a consultant, it's like, oh, I'm going to take hours out and that's hours when I could be spending money. But actually, once I had a bit of a chat with myself and I was like, no, hang on. Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So for me, it was about really sitting down and taking the time to really think about why I was making the investment and what did I want to feel like, more importantly, because I was feeling a huge amount of overwhelm and anxiety day to day anyway. So taking the pause, I actually did it over a period of about 10 days. So I would do work, I would leave it and I would come back to it. I would reflect on what I'd written or what I was thinking, because depending on what had happened that day, I noticed had a massive impact on either how positive or negative I was being about myself. So really committing to taking that time, taking myself off to different spaces to be able to do the work as well. I noticed that had a big impact on what I was reflecting on. And actually it felt nice to be a little bit selfish and actually take some time out to work out what it is that I wanted out of this transition and what I wanted out of my coaching experience.
Such a good point when you say with the what I wanted, because I think we spend like the longest time, don't we, kind of like doing all these, I talk a lot about shoulds, like all the shoulds, like, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I think particularly when you are changing your career, there's like a load of baggage that's kept, isn't there, of all of the things that we've done for ages because we're kind of conditioned to think that that's what good looks like.
I think that's a great point. I don't think I realised how much conditioning I'd possibly actually gone through. And actually I'd stopped almost learning to think for myself because executives and leaders were doing that for me and almost like kind of guiding that journey. So I think actually starting to remember who I am and what I want to, especially in corporate culture, I think it's very easy for us to become moulded into versions of what they want you to be rather than you staying true to who you are. What I recognise now is that actually being your authentic self, being true to who you are, makes you a far better employee. It makes you a far better consultant. It makes you a far better support person for those key people in your life.
It's really exhausting trying to be someone else
Very
all
tiring.
the time. Yeah. So the day itself.
Yeah.
Take me back there. How was it?
So it was about 4 months ago now, so it was kind of the start of the year, so it felt like a really good time. It was springtime, it's sort of a time of new beginnings, but I'm not going to lie, the drive here I was nervous. You know, I would be lying if I said I wasn't. It's that fear of the unknown. I am a very fast-paced individual, so the thought of slowing down, I think, was probably causing the most anxiety, and how could nature possibly help me work out who I am, move me beyond, stretch me, you know, into a new dimension. That was quite a foreign concept to me. So I was nervous, and obviously having done that much pre-work and then knowing I was coming in for 8 hours, but the moment you drive down the drive, it's like you go through some kind of portal into a completely different universe. And just the moment of stepping out the car and taking in all of this and what a stunning space it is, it was like the biggest sigh of relief. And it just felt like this was my time, and it didn't feel selfish, it didn't feel overly indulgent. And yeah, there is something very magical about this space. It sounds like a bit of a cliche, but there really is.
Well, I think so.
You're biased.
I'm biased. I never want to be anywhere else in the world. And the day itself, so I know we were here and we walked and we shouted, we
shouted. We
did stuff.
Which, again, for some screaming and shouting off the deck. But who knew what a release that would be? And I think there's a few things for me about the day. Was I shared things with you. You cultivated such a sense of trust and safety that I shared things with you that I've never shared with anyone before in my life, even my husband. And actually letting go of some of those things was incredibly, I think I'd been holding on to them so tightly for such a long time. But trusting you, knowing that I was in a safe space and almost being in nature and being kind of out in the forest, it felt safe as well. It kind of felt like a hug and an embrace, and actually it was okay to be vulnerable in that space. I didn't feel threatened. I actually weirdly didn't feel exposed, even though, you know, we were talking about, you know, some fairly deep things, but your ability to tease those out of me and be able to make me see how they were false narratives, or, you know, things that I created in my own, or things that I'd even allowed other people to create in my own head. The walk itself was, I mean, I like being out. I mean, I'm a sailor, but I like being out, but it's incredible the metaphors that you can see when you just slow down a little bit. It's interesting, but one of my clients at the moment, he always says to me, like, hurry up and slow down. And I can see actually nature plays a big role in that for me now, in terms of I don't feel guilty walking off in the middle of the day for an hour to just, you know, regulate and slow myself down. I think touching on the past slightly, especially because of what I'd come out of and where I wanted to go, was so different to kind of where I'd been. But really for me, it was the forward thinking activities and being able to break those down into really palatable small steps that then didn't feel overwhelming, because you could already tell I was overwhelmed anyway, so you weren't layering on more overwhelm. That was fantastic. I loved that part of our day. I love being really creative. I'm a very visual person, so that really dialed into my sense of creativity.
Well, thank you, and just thank you for putting your trust in me and the day, because it's just such a joy to work with you, and it's such a joy to see you here now, like, and again, at the risk of sounding a bit wooey, with very different energy to the Suzy that walked through the gates 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So what's changed?
Probably the biggest thing is I'm kinder to myself. You know, I don't have anything to prove to anyone other than myself, and actually that's okay. And if I'm not doing that at 150 miles an hour, actually I'm even better when I'm not doing it at 150 miles an hour. I think my husband is ecstatic because he knows more or less what version of me he's coming home to, because I'm not putting all of this pressure on myself to, you know, be a CEO within 5 years, or, you know, be making £1 million. Like, I've just taken away and liberated myself from some of the, you know, the false narratives that I was creating and that I'd inherited, or I'd let people allow me to believe when I was in a corporate environment. And actually it's really empowered me to think long and hard on my leadership style and how I bring that, how I show up. Am I showing up responsibly? Because I think the impact that leaders have on you is immeasurable. You know, I don't think as employees you kind of consider that. So I think, yeah, responsible leadership is probably one of the biggest takeaways. I've inherited a team now. I'm moving back into a full-time position for the next couple of years. And that is probably one of my biggest takeaways, is making sure that I am being responsible in how I'm helping that team be the best versions of themselves.
It's beautiful. It really is. It's such a joy to hear that, and thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I think, you know, I think you panic about taking a day away from your business, and I think I would say to anybody, don't ever worry about taking that time out, because actually what you will get back from investing that time, and it is a bit more than a day, because you've got pre-work and then we've done follow-up calls as well, which have been so valuable. just in making sure that there's a bit of accountability there, because I think it's really easy to go on training courses or go and do coaching and then you sort of put it in a box and you walk away from it. But that accountability has been really important. But I'd say it's the best investment that you will make. It's the best use of your time to spend on yourself in order to leapfrog you forward. So, you know, you always said to me, it's about probably doing 12 months of coaching in one full day. But I think I feel personally, I've come further in the last 4 months than I have in the 2 years since I left corporate life. And I don't think you can place an amount of money on that.
That's incredible. Well done, because you've put in the graft. Like, as you say, you've got to be accountable, you've got to do the work, and that's the really amazing thing that you've done. So if you were to do a quick fire bit of advice for someone thinking of coming and doing a retreat day with me, what would you say?
Pick up the phone, spend the money, and you'll never look back.
Oh, thank you, Suze.
No, thanks, Emma.